Hello everyone, this is the next part. I'm going to be showing you how to paint trees. So these are fan brushes. So if you look, I don't know where the camera is, I can't really see, but I think it's about, which angle are we at? Here, I think. So if you look at all these fan brushes, they're all fan brushes, but they've all got different bristles. Some are wider than others, some are skinnier than others. Some are watercolour brushes, some are acrylic. So this one's a really fine one. You can see, look, that's a really fine one. This one's a really fat one, and there's lots of bristles on it. So they all do different things, and they're good for different things. So even though you can buy a fan brush and you might think I only need one fan brush, they're all different, and they all get different textures and they all do different techniques. So if I get a piece of scrap paper, I can show you what I mean. So let's get a piece of paper. Okay, so if I get some of this paint, this is the paint that I was using for the blending. So I'm just going to show you what you need to. I've left my brush in the water, don't ever do that. Let's just take it out and dry it. That's it, right. Okay, so I'm going to just show you. So we're going to use this skinny one. Let's do that one first and show you what this one does. So when you do trees, it's with a fan brush, it's kind of like this motion. So like left to right, and when you do it with a fan brush, it's got a natural shape to go smile up, happy face, or smile down for sad face. So if you was to go with this way, it goes downwards. So if you go to this way, it goes upwards. So you need to be quite aware of what direction you want your leaves to go in and how you want your tree to look. So that makes a difference. So I'm just going to use now. This is a Terry Harrison fan brush. So this is a watercolor brush. So this is a fat one, and it's got, you can see lots of bristles across there. It's quite a chunky fat one. So we're going to try that one and see what that does. Alright, so with watercolour, it means it holds a lot of water. There's a lot of bristles. Look, this one's really fat. So that gives different techniques and different textures. Okay. So that's a good watercolour one. Right, just dry my brush off. Okay. That's a fat one as well. That one is watercolour. That's Matthew Palmer large fan brush. Okay, so this is a synthetic one. This is Winsor & Newton, this one. Let's try this one and see what this does. Oh, drop this one. Oh, all right, so let's try this one. Okay. So this is quite a skinny, giving skinny leaf. So that's quite straight. You can use it on the side as well. If you want to do it at the side, you can use it at the side, and you can use it in the middle, either side. So you don't have to put as much paint on, do as many strokes. That's quite a good one. Okay, and these ones are a bit bigger, so I think I will try this one. That one's probably too big. Right. So this way is quite good, but you can also pat it down. But just be aware, you don't want to be doing the same pattern all the way down. So look, you can do a bottom pattern like this, smile down, smile up. So this will give you a fatter tree. So there's different ways to use it. You can sweep it across, or you can pat it down. So I just wanted to show you that so you can see what fan brushes do. So let's write on here. Fan brushes. Okay. So we've got that. So I'm just going to show you now how we can paint our trees. So I'm going to use ultramarine blue and I'm going to use yellow. So we're going to make a green up. So you need to pull some paint out from wherever it is you've got your blob of paint. Pull it out to the centre. And you always mix your colours at the centre. So take some paint and pull it out. So then it means you don't you've got less chance of contaminating your paint in its pile where it is. Okay, so right, that's quite dark, that's what we want. Okay, right, so let's start. So this is going to be tree number 1. So I'm just going to put a line roughly where I want a tree to start and a tree to stop. So I'm just going to tap it with my brush. So tap it roughly. Right, I think I want it to go this way. Let's have a look. That's it. Okay, so I'm just tapping it either side. So I'm turning my wrist and turning it over. Okay, just to create that shape. Okay, there you go. So that's our darks. Okay, so we've got the darks. So even if you don't see much of the dark, you still need to put it in because it will give you depth to your painting. Okay, so even though you don't always see the darks, it's still layers and it will add to it. So I'm just gonna make this one a bit taller. Okay, right, so let's add some more yellow to our mixture. Okay, so this is more, a little bit of water. This is more of a medium tone green. It's not quite an olivey green, but it's a medium tone. There's quite a bit of yellow in it, but okay. So now we're going to go over what we've already done. So let's give it some mid-tones. Okay, so just going to add some more. Okay, so that's good. That's got mid-tones in it. Now I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. To make it a bit brighter, and I think I'm going to add a little bit of white, so let's add some white too. Toothpaste size, remember? Okay, there you go. So I've now got, let's put a bit of blue on that side. So I've now got, look, a dark blue on that side, a medium green and a white. Okay, so let's try that from the top. So add some white. And I can put some blue in at the same time while I'm here. Some darker shadows. That's it. And now I can kind of blend these together while I'm going along. I want to put some more shadows in there. Put some white on that side there. So this is a good technique to practice. It's like Christmas tree kind of trees. It depends how fat you want it. Okay, so that's my fat looking Christmas tree. So make sure you rinse your brush off. That's it. Okay, so the next one I'm going to show you is how to paint a Christmas looking tree, because this is what when I came to class and showed you all the Christmas trees. So we can do these small, medium or large. You can do big ones, you can do little ones, we can do all sorts of ones. So I just want to show you how easy they are to paint, and you can create your own ones. So we're going to have ultramarine blue, cadmium yellow, titanium white in toothpaste size. Okay, rinse your brush. That's it. Okay. Just check this. That's it. Right. Okay. So what you need to do now is we start with a Christmas tree. We start at the bottom. So I'm going to put some blue and some yellow out and make some darker tones, but I'm also going to put some white on as well. So we're going to have a kind of mixture of everything. So a bit of yellow, a bit of blue, and a bit of white. Okay, so we're going to start with our brush strokes at the bottom. So this is what we're going to turn the brush round. Okay, let's try and put a bit more on. So a bit more blue and a bit more white. So it's good to do each layer at a time. If you want to do a guideline, then you can draw a very skinny little triangle. So you've got a guideline and you know where you have to go outside the lines. You're going to cover that up with paint, but just so you know where the top's going to go and you don't lose your bearings. So next layer, twisting my brush, loading my brush, twisting my brush, loading my brush. Okay, a bit more yellow, outside, twisting my brush, loading my brush, loading my brush, twisting my brush, twisting my brush, loading my brush, twisting my brush. So if you see, you're building that, I'm building it up from the bottom now. So let's get some more green. Okay, twisting, twisting, twisting. So you want each brush stroke to be different from the last one, because otherwise, if they're all the same, it's going to look like a row of leaves and branches all the same. And you don't want that. You want it to look different. So that's what makes things interesting. This is probably my favourite technique. I love doing this. I do this on windows. So I use a great big brush for this, probably about that big. I paint Christmas windows and Christmas trees using a big fat brush. Lots of paint, lots of colours. greens, yellows. And I build up Christmas trees, and I can probably do a Christmas tree like this in less than about 4 or 5 minutes, which you'd be really shocked at, but it's really easy. But when you get to the top one is going to be pointing upwards because it's in a different direction. All the others are falling down, but the top one's pointing up to the top. So we make sure that that one's pointing upwards like that. Okay, so I'm just going to show you that closer up so you can see. See, look at all the colours. The colours look lovely. And it's drying already because it's on paper, on card. But it looks really lovely. And it shows all the depth in it and all the textures in it. You can see both the trees now. So the darks, the mid-tones and the lights. So we've got 2 different types of trees. Okay. So also I'm going to show you if you want to paint clouds. So by painting clouds, I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use this fan brush, and I'm going to use my mop brush here. So this is my blending brush. It is a bit wet, so I'm going to try and see if I can dry it off a bit more. That's better. Okay, so if you want to do clouds, I'm going to do clouds first so we've got a bit of a background. So I'm going to put some more white out in a clean space. Toothpaste, done. Okay, so I'm going to put some, load my brush up with white. So there's not that much on there, there's a bit, but it's not much. So if you want to do clouds and you want to do the blendable clouds and the ones that are kind of fluffy but they're not, they kind of fade in the distance. So I'll put some paint on. Okay, so these are going to be our clouds. So I'm going to use the makeup brush. So you can do them upwards direction or you can do a round direction. So you know when the clouds go in that funny shape. So this one, I'm just going to slowly blend these out. Okay. So look, it's just using the very tip, very lightly. Let's put that brush down. Very lightly, blending all the edges out. So there are so many different clouds. There's like, you could talk about clouds forever. And there's so much you can find out about how to paint clouds. But I just wanted to show you that this does give really good effect. You can wisp them out a bit. Okay, so that's a really good tip for clouds. Let's make that a bit brighter. So it's a little bit damp, this brush, so it's not blending the way I want it to. So I'm just going to leave it as that for now, but it needs to be completely dry. Okay. That's that. Okay, so now we're going to paint a tree on here, okay, and we're going to do the branches. So what I'm going to do is we're going to make our colours up. So we've made green up and we now need to make brown up. So we're going to use ultramarine blue, toothpaste size. we're going to use cadmium yellow, toothpaste size, and we're going to use cadmium red. This is not a great one. It's a bit thick, this one. I'm actually going to use the little thin one. Look, these are little tiny tubes, and these are still really good. They still hold paint, and look, that's tiny. You can use this tube a lot, and you think because it's a little tube, it's going to be rubbish. It's not going to last long. Squeeze all the paint out in one go, and you just don't need to use that much. You just need to use a little bit at a time. You can keep adding to it as much as you want. And by using little bits like this at a time, you really don't need to use that much. Right, so, what am I doing? I'm going to put a bit of white out as well. I'm going to put the white down here. Okay. Right, so, to do our trees, we want to do our tree trunks. So, I'm going to use a flat brush. See this one? Okay, so I'm going to use a flat brush. I'm going to wet it. Okay, so I'm going to pull my colours down. So to make brown is blue, yellow and red, but the rule is to make brown you have to make green first because it doesn't mix the same way. Okay, so we're going to use a bit of blue. Okay, and we'll take a bit of yellow, mix it up, a bit more yellow, a bit more yellow. Okay, so that's our green. Now we're going to add the red. Okay, so we can see what kind of red we've got now, what kind of brown we've got. So it's more of a greeny brown. It's quite red, so I think we need to add some more blue because I want to make it darker. So let's add some blue. That's a bit better. Okay, right, so now we've got our brown. So I'm going to do a tree trunk, and this is going to be like a standard kind of tree. So when you do a standard tree, you want to start from the bottom, depending on how wide the base is. I would start from the bottom first of all. Give it a bit of a solid base to stand on, depending on what tree it is. Now, if you hold your brush loose between your fingers, so it's like moving, it's really light, like this, that will give you like not a straight line. You don't want a dead straight line, so just let it touch the paper and just like wiggle it. Okay, then you'll get a different trunk. You don't just want to do dead straight trunk unless it is dead straight. Some of them are dead straight. So I'm going to do a branch here. Remember that they're fatter inside, and do you know what, if you start taking pictures of trees when you're out and about, and you look at now, especially this time of year, and you look at the branches, every single tree is completely different. Some start right down here, the branches, and they've got a little base, and they start at the bottom, and then they spread right out. And there's other ones that are like normal trees, what we would class as normal trees. But they're all different. They're all completely different. And the branches of a tree are a bit like our fingerprints. Every single one of them is different. And every single branch looks different to the last one. So you don't want to draw all your branches the same, because trees all look very different. And we don't want to do our trees that look like they've got an ice cream on the top. So it's like a cone with an ice cream on the top. So when you was at school, when you drew your trees with a squiggly line around the top, and you put all your green top, brown trunk, we don't want to do that. It's all right for your grandchildren to do it, but you want to have a nice tree that looks like it's 3D. You know, you want to look like, you know, the birds can fly in these trees, and you want them to look as 3D as possible. So you can imagine where the tree branches are going to go. So some are really weird shapes, some are like odd shapes. They're not all symmetrical either. Trees aren't symmetrical. Each branch is different. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your tree branches, where it's going to go. So some of the branches are going to come out like here. If we did one at the side here, doesn't mean it's going to come out the side, it might come out the front. So if it comes out the front, it might start there, you know, coming towards us, and it might come down a bit at that angle. So they're not all going to be the same shape. Some are thicker than others. Okay, so I'm going to fill this in. So this is why you don't want to put too much paint out, because look, this is nearly drying already. Okay, so let's make these a bit thicker, the ones that we want thick. So you have to remember, when you're looking straight at a tree, it's actually round. So the same amount of branches at the front are normally at the back, the sides, both sides, and the back's always going to be a bit darker because it's where all the leaves are. So I think that's about it for them. So the next thing we need to think about, I'm going to make a bit like where the light's coming from. So the light's going to come from this corner, and it's going to put a highlight on the side of the tree. So I'm going to put some yellow in my brown here to lighten it up a little bit. And I want to put a little shadow this side, just to show that that's where my shadow's going to be. There. Okay. Right, so next we're going to look at the leaves. So how we're going to paint our leaves. So we're going back to basics again, and back to our other little colour palette that we used. I'm going to use, I think this brush for now. We'll do this one first. I'll use this brush first, and then we'll use the fan brush after. So we're going to go back to this, and I'm going to put this to one side a minute, and I'm going to make a dark green again. So I'm going to use blue and yellow. Okay, so I'm going to do a layer of leaves. So I want you to think about, when you put your leaves on your tree, you've got to think of the canopy layers and the clumps, and they're put together in clumps depending on what branch they're on. So sometimes there's a big clump of bushes, and if you look at a tree in the distance, you'll see there's shadows and there's lighter areas and darker areas. So we're just going to put the darker areas in first. So we're not going to just make a whole lump and a whole tree. So I'm just going to put, looking at the canopies of the trees, the trees are always, normally, not always, but sometimes they're darker in the middle because there's more of it than the outside. They get lighter as they go to the outside. So I'm just going to put some darker ones here. And you want to leave some gaps. You want to see the sky through it, and you want to leave some gaps to let the birds fly through. So just think, you don't want to do it like this or like this in a lump. You want to make it look natural, so we need to allow gaps for the birds. So just remember that the birds live in these trees as well. So think about that. That's kind of good. I always think that's really helpful. Okay, so yeah, I think that's about it for that. So there's quite a lot there. There's quite a lot of dark. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush off. I don't really need to rinse my brush off because it's the same colour. We're using the same colours, but I just want to make sure it's clean. That needs to be dry. It's not quite dry, but I'm going to use some more yellow because it's a bit, might need a bit more. Toothpaste size. Tiny, tiny, tiny. Okay, so yellow. Let's put some yellow. So with a little bit of blue in it. Okay. Let's use this bit up first. Okay, so this is like a mid-tone green. So let's now, it's a bit wet. Let's now put, that's better, this where you think your mid-tones are going to go. So I think they'll probably be quite near some of the edges. There'll be some here, because there's edges all around the tree, inside the tree and outside the tree. So you probably won't see many of your branches, but you still need to know where they are to be able to fill them up with leaves. So you can't just guess and go, oh, I'm just going to do one straight trunk and then put leaves on it, because that's why they don't look real. Because you don't really know where to put them. You don't know the construction of the tree. So by putting the leaves in, even if you don't see them at the end, you still know where they are. Okay, so this is going to be just a yellow. And the light's coming from this side, so this side will probably be lighter. Okay. Right, so now I'm going to add some white. Now this changes the hues completely, but sometimes white works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's okay for trees, but it does depend on the light. Okay, so here we go. So you can see now it's building up. Tree's building up. Just turn your brush round. Don't just do the same stamp mark and the same brush mark, because it will look the same in every clump of trees. So I've got a few here. See, I've got a few here the same. You don't want that, because it looks like you've just copied it. Okay, so it's nice to have different shapes. This is really good for blossoms as well. Cherry blossoms work out well when you do them in pink. Okay, so I'm going to put some across the branch here, so it looks like they're growing. Okay, like here. So that's a really good tree, I think. I'm quite pleased with that. It looks quite good. It looks quite 3D. So you can build this up as little or as much as you want. But I just wanted to show you that version of a tree. Okay, and I'm going to do exactly the same now, but we're going to use the fan brush. And I'm going to show you the difference in the leaves and what they look like when you use a fan brush. So the brown, we need to make brown again. So blue and yellow make our green. Make our green, add our red. Now that's quite a reddy brown. Oh, there's a hair in that. That's quite a reddy brown, so I want it to be darker, so I'm going to add some more blue. Okay, so we're going to do trunk number 2 now. So it's going to be similar to the last one. I think I might make it the same size, but it's not going to be so, it's going to be a bit of an oak, like an oak tree kind of looking one. So I'll make this one a bit fatter. Okay. That's it. Okay. So I'm going to wet my brush. It's better. Should get better flow. That's it. Okay, so let's put our branches in. So I think these branches are going to be, these are going to go up high, these ones. So I'm thinking where I want the top of my tree, probably around here. So is that? Oh, I see that. That's just like, I don't know what that is. Right. The sun, I'm going to just move. I've got a little thing in the way because of the sun, so I'm just going to move it over so we can see. Let's have a look, see if we can see. Oh, I've got that one down, as usual. Right, where are we here? That's it. So I've got the window over there, and it's to get the sun all day out the front. So I have to block the window. So till about, I think 1 o'clock, it's quite bright. The sun's quite bright. So I've got a photography backdrop screen in front of my window. Right, so let's back to this. Right, so let's paint these in. Okay. So I'm using the wrong brush for this really, but I just wanted to make it a bigger brush just to show you on the camera, because I thought you'd be able to see it better if I used a bigger brush. Okay, so that's going to be my tree. I'm going to put another branch here. I'm going to start it in the centre of the trunk and move it outwards. So now that branch looks more 3D. Okay, that's it. And if you paint it in the direction the twigs are going, then it kind of blends it for you, which is quite good. Right, so that's my rubbish tree. But there you go. You're not going to see much of it anyway. So now I'm going to go back to the fan brush. Now I'm going to go back to this one, I think. Was this the one I was using? Yes, it's quite wet, so we're going to use that one. So let's go back to our greens. So I'm going to make, this is ultramarine blue. And some yellow. Right, so this is going to be our dark green. It's a bit like a hooker's green, a sap green. It's that kind of green. It's a darker green. Okay, so I'm going to do them in the clumps where they are on the tree. Okay, so in the sections where I think the tree, where they're going to go. Okay. So it's quite good because you can still see some of the branches. Don't just block loads of it out with just all green and then think, oh, you've got no gaps for your birds to fly through. You can add the blue in afterwards if you want to add the gaps after. If you've got a lot of acrylic on there, you can do that. But it depends on how your background looks. If you've got a plain background, it's quite difficult because you can't get these lines in the background with the trees. But you can add the blue after, so it just depends on what effect you want it to, how you want it to look. Okay, so we're going to do mid-tones now. Let's just wipe that a bit. Okay, so this is a mid-green. What's a yellow? Okay, so this is going to be layer number 2. So it's still wet underneath, so we're just going to add these on top. So this is kind of a different, bit of a different shape tree. These are good for like bushes and things. Okay, so you can see it coming together, the tree now. So now I'm going to add some white. So this should really stand out now. Okay. Okay. Right. Oh, look at that. Looks good, doesn't it? So you can use that little bit there on the edge. Depends where the light is. The light's really important. It's a really important part of painting, knowing where your light source is coming from, because it really does make a difference. Excuse me, I'm sneezing. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, so it does really make a difference where your light source is coming from, knowing where that light source is. Okay, so this is really good. I love the fan brush. It gives really good textures that you wouldn't get. I mean, this is the same branch, the same trunk, but we're just using a different brush. We're using the same paints, but we're just using different techniques and different brushes. So I quite like this one. I think this is a good one. Gives good effects. So if you decide that you want more dark and you think, oh, I've made it too light now, I've put too much light in it and I actually want it to be darker, you can go back with the darker colour and find areas that you want to keep dark, because there are quite a few sections inside that are dark. Okay, so that is your next tray. Just gonna wash this brush out, and also actually I'm washing the brush out, but I'm gonna get, sorry, just moved you. I've washed this brush out, but I'm actually going to use it because I just think, oh, I could do some good foliage and some good grass and stuff. So let's just do that. So we'll do the dark again. So let's go here. So with the fan brush still. So I'm going to do some background here. Right, let's get a bit of water. Right, so now I'm going to make some high bushes. I think I'm going to use a smaller one because it's a bit fat, that one. Let's get the smaller one. Here it is. This is a little skinny one. Right, there we go, that's better. Okay, so you can do your grasses like this, or you can do your bushes. So you can do bushes like this, darker. and come round. We can do some tall grasses. Okay, so the mid-tones, let's just rinse that out. Bit of yellow. Right, that's it. So do your mid-tones for your bushes, and that's it. Let's do some light ones here. Okay, so that shows you how light that side is, but unless you put your darks and your mid-tones in, it looks really flat. So we know the light's here, so I'm just going to go over this bit here and make this side a little bit lighter. Because the light's on this side. Okay, so there's a few ones on this side that are catching the light, but not so many. So I'm going to, there you go, look, put some little flowery, leafy things in. Just put some colours in. And put them in front of the tree, and that will push the tree back a little bit. Just doing them white so you can see. There you go. So that's really easy, just with a little fan brush. If you want to put the darks back in again. And you can just add them in the background. So remember, the dark is always darker when it's near you. They get lighter as they get further away. So let's make this bit a bit lighter at the front, a bit more yellow. There we go. So that's really nice. I really like that. I think you should just definitely try this. It's such good practice. It's so nice to do. Trees are really good to do. So we've got 4 trees now. I think I might do, shall we do like a birch tree? Because birch trees are really skinny. We could do a birch tree. How about a birch tree and a willow tree? That would be quite cool. So let's paint our trunk. So with a birch tree, I'm just going to do the outside of it, because a birch tree is like quite skinny. I'm trying to think how it goes now. So it's quite skinny and straight like this, and I think it gets smaller actually as it gets taller. So let's just block in. Let's use the white. Right, let's just block in a birch tree just to show you. It's kind of more like that shape. It goes a bit taller. I think I haven't done it tall enough, but we'll just see. We'll just do it. It's probably meant to be this tall. So just take the notice of it. It should be taller when skinnier than that. Okay. We'll forget that bit. Right, so the brown, I'm going to do, I know it's probably more black than it is brown. I'm going to put a bit more blue in that. Okay, so I've got kind of marks across here like this. And they've got knots in them as well. So let's do some knot shapes where the old branches have come off. So when you do your lines, try and make sure they're a little bit rounder, because it is actually a round tree, so try and do them a bit rounder. So let's do like a bit more red on that. That's it. Right, so let's do a they kind of come out, the branches come out with the birch tree, they kind of come out, but they kind of drop down as well, so they come out and then this is more of a purple now, sorry, let's put some yellow with it. It's turned into purple. Okay. Yeah, so they kind of come out this way. So I wanted to show you, because these are really interesting. I kind of like these ones. They're really interesting. So I'm just going to put some leaves on them in the same way that we did before, okay? So I'm going to use my round brush, okay? But at the ends, all their leaves are they kind of hang down, because they're quite heavy, the branches. They kind of point downwards. A bit more blue, a bit more yellow. That's it. Yeah, so they're a different shape. Okay, so they're kind of like that shape. And they're quite spaced out as well, some of there are a lot more branches than this. I've done this on a mini scale, just to give you an idea of how to draw them and how to see. Because sometimes when there's too many leaves, you actually can't see. So I wanted to do them this way, so you get a bit of an idea. If there was more branches and it was a bigger tree, that's kind of the effect that you're going to get. You know, and there's some branches that come towards us, because, you know, they're here. And there's some going that way, downwards, you know, so they're all going in different directions, some of these branches. So they've still all got leaves on them. So more yellow, and I'm going to put a bit of white on with the yellow, a bit more yellow. Toothpaste size. See, look, I've still got loads of paint left of that phthalo blue I've not really used. That's it. So I'm going to leave that as that is, because that's going to take forever otherwise. But that's just a rough thing to show you the different leaf shapes and types. And I just want to quickly show you, I'm going to show you half of a willow tree, because the willow tree is very similar to this one up here that we did. But the only difference is it's how the leaves are. So I'm just going to quickly show you. Okay. So I shall do, let's do it here. Okay. So they're normally really, willow trees are normally quite old, so they've got fat trunks because they're really old. So I saw a willow tree. Oh my god, it was absolutely huge. One person was like this tiny and the tree was like this big. It was huge, and it was at oh, where did I go? I went to a concert, Audley End House and Gardens, and you go to the gardens there. Oh, there's a massive willow tree in the gardens. It is the biggest tree I think I've ever seen. I took a photo of it. It's like, wow, it is like, I reckon it must be thousands of years old, not hundreds. It's just so big. Right, so let's just do a rough leaf. So we know where the leaves are going. I think here, here, here. They're in big groups. Okay. Right, so I'm now going to go back to the fan brush, and I'm going to show you this tree here that we did. It's going to be similar to that one. So let's just put some blue paint out. Toothpaste size. Drop the lid. Okay, this is Winsor Newton, yeah, acrylic blue. Okay, so let's do. So they're quite flat willows, so they have clumps of leaves in different sections. Okay, like this. Got some darker ones underneath, but they're quite, on the whole, they are quite light willow trees. They're not very dark. They don't have as much depth to them because they're quite stringy, and they've got long tails. So I want to try and show that. Okay, so these kind of come down like this. So this is kind of my take. It's probably not the right take, but it's my take on willow trees, because I just think you have to find a way that's easy for you to do them. So this is what I came up with. I just thought this was far easier. And it gives better results as well. So you can do thinner ones. You don't have to do like the ones I'm doing. Let's put a little bit more white out. Toothpaste size. You'd be sick of me this then. I know what she's going to say. Right. So I did a mural for someone, and they wanted a willow tree in their garden because they wanted their dog to sit. I used to sit underneath it So she wanted me to paint a willow tree, and this was how I did it. I put the dog underneath, and then when it came to the actual branches, I had a bigger brush, but I did the details of the individual willow tree branches, which are really tiny. I've got a little brush. This is a tiny brush. So I did this kind of, I'm going to show you what shape I did. Let's see. So some of them were like little strings, and like this, and then I was able to put some little, just some little like dots with the brush, just to show. A bit more detail. So there you go. That, I'm not going to do this one because I don't think we need to. Excuse me. But I think that we've done really well, going from this plain white sheet that we started off with to a blended background and 6 trees. So have fun and practice your trees, practice your blended backgrounds, and I hope you get on really well. See you soon.